Taishin Shudan, or the Raiding Group, was a Japanese airborne unit during World War II, which was a part of the Imperial Japanese Army Air Force. Japan developed an airborne paratroop force in the late 1930s, but the program did not receive much attention by the Imperial headquarters until review of the success of the similar German paratroop unit during the Blitzkrieg in 1940. As with similar airborne units created by the Axis and the Allies, the Japanese paratroopers suffered from a very high casualty rate, and the loss of men who required such extensive and expensive training limited their operations to only the most critical ones. For the most part, the Taishin Shudan was deployed as an elite light infantry. 2 regiments of Taishin Shudan were formed into the 1st Raiding Group under the control of the Southern Expeditionary Army Group during the Philippines campaign. Although structured as a division, its capabilities were much lower, and it lacked any form of artillery and had to rely on other units for logistical support. The uniforms of the Japanese Army paratroopers in the first stages of the war was similar to that of German Luftwaffe paratroopers. The padded leather helmet was later replaced by a steel one, although photographs suggest that the German helmets were actually issued to the Japanese paratroopers. The troops were standard infantry equipment with additional ammunition bandoliers. They were first deployed in combat during the Battle of Palembang on Sumatra in the Netherlands East Indies, which is now Indonesia, in February of 1942. Oil production was centered at Prambuli, some 70 kilometers from Palembang in the southeastern part of Sumatra. From here, crude oil was piped to the large refinery a few miles to the north of Palembang. This facility was able to refine 45,000 barrels per day, and its specialty was high-octane aviation fuel production. Another refinery was to the east of Palembang. This too was capable of refining 45,000 barrels per day. So these 2 refineries, which were the largest in Southeast Asia, had a combined annual capacity of around 20 million barrels and were capable of producing 78% of Japan's aviation fuel and 22% of its other fuel requirements. The operation was planned with 425 men of the 1st Parachute Raiding Regiment seizing Palembang airfield, while the paratroopers of the 2nd Parachute Raiding Regiment seized the town and the important oil refinery. However, after the 1st Raiding Regiment departed Japan aboard a transport ship, it suddenly caught fire in the South China Sea, sinking on the 3rd of January 1942. All the paratroopers were rescued, but lost all their equipment and were exhausted, and therefore did not partake, leaving the entire operation to the 2nd Parachute Raiding Regiment. In January, the American, British, Dutch, and Australian command decided to concentrate Allied air forces in Sumatra at 2 airfields near Palembang, the Pangkalan Benteng, also known as P1, and at another airbase and Prambuli, or P2. The British Royal Air Force could only muster 40 Bristol Blenheim light bombers and 35 Lockheed Hudson light bombers. The Royal Netherlands East Indies Army Territorial Command in the Pelambang area consisted of about 2,000 troops, as well as various artillery and machine gun units. On the 13th of February 1942, Kawasaki 56 transport planes of the Imperial Japanese Army Air Force dropped the Taishin Shudan paratroopers over Pankalan airfield. At the same time, Japanese bombers dropped supplies for them. Although the Japanese paratroopers failed to capture the airfield, they did manage to gain possession of the entire oil refinery complex undamaged. A makeshift counterattack by the Dutch troops managed to retake the complex, but took heavy losses due to Japanese soldiers entrenched in the refinery's air raid shelters. The planned demolition failed to do any serious damage to the refinery, but the oil stores were set ablaze. 2 hours after the first airdrop, another 60 Japanese paratroopers were dropped near the airfield. On the afternoon of the 15th of February, all Allied aircraft were ordered to Java, where a major Japanese attack was anticipated, and the Allied air units had withdrawn from southern Sumatra by the evening of the 16th of February. The remote location of the captured refineries in Sumatra permitted their operation by the Japanese with impunity from Allied air attacks until the summer of 1944. During the summer, 54 B-29 Superfortress heavy bombers were dispatched from an airfield in British Ceylon on the 10th of August 1944, of which 39 reached the Pelambang area. Attempts to bomb the oil refinery were largely unsuccessful, and only a few buildings were destroyed during this initial raid. I hope you enjoyed this episode, and to make sure you don't miss my future work, please make sure you're subscribed to my channel and press the bell notification button. Thank you, and see you in the next video.